Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is REST client. Okay. The application which is accessing the REST API is called as REST client. REST client application and REST API application will be there, right? REST client application will communicate with the REST API using HTTP. Every programming language having the support to develop REST clients. Using Spring Boot also, we can develop REST client applications. REST template will be there and web client will be there. REST template will be there, web client will be there. This web client introduced in the Spring 5.x version. So what is the difference between REST template and web client? REST template is a predefined class which is part of Spring Boot starter web dependency. REST template is a predefined class which is part of Spring Boot starter web dependency. It supports only synchronous. REST template supports only synchronous communication, whereas web client is an interface which is part of WebFlux dependency. This WebFlux supports both synchronous communications as well as asynchronous communication. Now, here, if you want to develop any REST client to access a REST API, first we need to know API details. To develop REST client, we need to know REST API details. What is the URL for the API? What is the request method, request data structure, response data structure? If we know these details about the API, then only we can develop client for them. How we will get the API details to develop a client? We will get Swagger documentation. Based on the Swagger documentation, we are going to develop the client, right? So yesterday, in the last session, we created a client by using REST template. So this is my API URL. My API is running in the Heroku cloud platform. Publicly, it is available. Everybody can access my API. So string API URL, this is the URL for my API. I'm creating an object for the REST template, and using the REST template, I'm calling get for entity. Get for entity means it is used to send the get request. This is my URL of the REST API, and this second parameter represents how you are representing API response. So whenever you send a request to this URL, API will give some response. How you will represent that response? To represent that response, I'm going for string.class. That means whatever the REST API is going to give me as a response, I want to represent that as a string data, text data. Once I got the response entity, I am getting the body. For entity.getBody, I got the body data. That body data I am printing. Okay. So with this, we are able to develop one client by using REST template. This client is sending a GET request for the REST API and printing the response. Sending a HTTP GET request to the REST API, getting the response, and printing the response on the console. This is the logic we have created. This logic is there in the REST API. There's client logic. It is used to access another REST API. All right. Now, let me run this logic once again. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Yes, my application is running, and my application is sending a request to REST API, and it is going to get the response from the REST API and will print the response on the console. Now see, it sent a request to the REST API. REST API has given some response. That response we are printing on the console. Welcome to Ashok IT. Perfect. Now I have given you another REST API, guys. I have given you another REST API that we deployed in the Heroku cloud. We deployed one REST API in the Heroku cloud platform. That REST API I want to access by developing client logic. I want to access that REST API by developing client logic. Now, this is the application. Basically, I need to rename this application, guys. Ashok IT book app. Let me rename to book app. Save this. Yeah. Now I have renamed. I have renamed my application. Okay, click on open app. Open app. Ashok IT book app. Now let's go for swagger-ui.html. This is my Swagger UI. This is my Swagger UI book REST controller /book post request, put request, delete request, get request. So there are four methods available. There are four methods available in the REST API. One is a post request. Now, in the post request, it is expecting this JSON data, book name, book price, and all. It is expecting that data in the request as a JSON. How to send a post request? How to send a post request to the REST API? Okay. Now I'm going to build one more REST client application to send the request to the REST API. Spring Starter project. So this application is 39th Spring Boot book client app, book API client. This is book API client application. Book API already running. For the book API, I'm developing a client, book API client application. Lombok, web dependency, dev tools. So I want to show you one more example with the REST template. I want to show you one more example with the REST template. So to work with REST template, we are going to use web starter. To work with REST template, we are going to use web starter. Clear? Now I'm selecting Lombok, web starter, dev tools. Click on next, click on finish. I created one more application using web starter. In this application, we can write the logic to send the request to REST API. Now I want to send a post request to the REST API. So I want to store a book. That means I want to send a post request to the REST API. So to send a post request to the REST API, how to send it? How to send a post request to the REST API? Okay, guys. In the post request, are we going to send a empty post request, or we need to send a post request with the data? Come on. Are we going to send an empty post request, or we are going to send empty request? We need to send the data also in the request. Okay. So for that, I am going to create one binding class. So as we discussed earlier, binding classes will be available at the API side and binding classes will be available at the client side. So now client want to send book data to the API as a post request. How to send that book data? I'm going to represent book data class binding. Okay, what is the binding? I'm taking book as a binding. Now private integer book ID, private string book name, private double book price. This is the data. Now you see in the documentation, they have given your model structure, book ID, book name, book price. This is the data. In this format, we need to send the data. So based on this documentation, I need to understand how to send a post request to the REST API from my program. Okay. So /book is the URL pattern binded to post request. This is the JSON data they are expecting. So I have created a class with 3 variables. So let me specify @data. Let me specify @data. So @data will represent with these setters and getters for these variables. @data will represent setters and getters for these variables. Okay. Fine, guys. Setters and getters will be represented for these variables. Now, my binding class is ready to set the data. Now, I want to create a client class. ashokid.client. I'm going to create a class with a name called book client. So let me create a class with a name called book client. Creating a class with a name called book client. This is used to send the request to REST API. This class I'm representing as a service. That means I want to represent this class as a Spring Bean. So representing this class as a service by using Spring Bean annotation. Inside this, I'm going to write the logic to send the request, post request to book the ticket. Public, some void, invoke book ticket. Public void invoke book ticket. Okay. Here data you can take as a method parameter. Here I'm going to create some dummy object. Book is equal to new book. Book dot set book name. This is Java. Book dot set book price, some $345. This is my data. My data is ready. Then how to send this data in the request? How to send this data now? This is my application which is running in the local. I'm creating one application in the local, guys. So this is my project, client application. This is the API application. This is REST API. This REST API is running in Heroku Cloud Platform. So this is my client application. Client application is running in the local. This REST API is running in the Heroku Cloud. This is local. Now, this client application should send a request to this REST API. REST API should process the request and should give the response. Now, client application using one class to send the request and to receive the response. That class is called as REST template. We are using one class to send the request from client application to API application. We are sending a request from the client application to API application by using this REST template. Using this REST template. You got my point now? REST template we are using to send the request to REST API and we are getting the response from the REST API. So this request I want to send with some data. I want to send the request with some data. We know already request format, right? Header will be available and body will be available. This is a request. Similarly, we are going to get some response from the API that also will contain a header and a body. Payload will be available. Here we need to keep our payload. Here we are also getting the payload in the response. Request payload will be available and response payload also will be available. So this is how our applications are going to communicate. This HTTP we will use as a mediator. So this is what we are going to develop. Our API is already ready. API is available in the Heroku Cloud Platform. API documentation also we have. We know What are the operations available? Methods are called as operations, guys. API operations also we know. Now I want to access post operation. I want to send a request to post operation. Post operation expecting data in which format? JSON format. What is the format of the data? This is the format of the data that they are expecting. Okay. Now I am building my logic using REST template to send a request to the API. So I have represented data that I want to send in the body. This data I should send in the request body. Very good. Now I want to send that request. Here we are going for a concept called REST template. RT is equal to new REST template. Now to send the post request, we have post for entity. What is the method we have, guys? Post for entity method is available. Now API URL. What is the URL of the API? String API URL. Where is our REST API? What is the URL of the REST API? The URL of the REST API you can access from here. This is the base URL. This is the base URL, and /book is the method URL pattern. So this is our base URL. Up to here is our base URL. After this, /book is available to send the post request. You see method URL pattern. This is our application base URL. /post is the URL. /book is the URL pattern of this post request method. So everything you need to understand from the documentation only. API details we need to understand from the documentation. This REST API is having documentation. Without this documentation, can you understand this REST API? Without a documentation, can you understand this REST API, guys? Without a documentation, can you develop a client for the REST API? Without a documentation, can you develop the client for the REST API? No, because we don't know what is the URL of the REST API, what is the method URL pattern for the REST API, what is input data, what is output data, input data structure, output data structure we don't know. Input data structure and output data structure we don't know without this documentation part. Without this documentation part. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? Are you clear with my point? Very good. Very good. Okay, fine. Now I have taken the URL and this is my API URL. This is my API URL. I want to send this book data in the request, and the response I'm going to get as string.class. Response I'm going to get as string.class. Now see, this is the URL of the REST API. This is the data I want to send in the body. I am using REST template. REST template.post for entity, 3 parameters: API URL, payload data, and response type. Let's store this. I got post for entity. System.out.println, system.out.println, post for entity.getBody, post for entity.getBody. Now run this application. I mean to say, this is a class which is represented as a Spring Bean. This class method I will call from the start class. Are you guys able to understand this logic? How to send a post request by using REST template? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand how we are sending post request by using REST template? Yes, we need to send the data in the request body. This is the data. This is the data. Okay. In this data, we are having some fields that JSON data we need to send. For sending the data in the request body, I created a binding class. This class is used to represent the data. From the UI, I will get this data into binding class. Then I'm creating REST template object, REST template dot post for entity. There are 3 parameters available for post for entity. What are the 3 parameters of post for entity? One is API URL, another one is book, third one is string dot class. What is the first parameter? First parameter represents to which API you want to send the request. What is the first parameter, guys? First parameter represents to which URL you want to send the request. I want to send the request to this URL. What is the second parameter? Body data, payload data. So to which API you want to send the request and what is the payload you want to send it. Payload data I'm sending in the object format. Third one is string.class. What is this string.class? String.class represents response type. How you want to hold the response at the client side. I want to hold the response as a text data. That's why I'm setting this string.class. Are you clear with these 3 parameters for post for entity? First parameter representing the URL, second parameter representing the payload object, third parameter representing how you want to hold the response given by the API. I want to hold the response given by the API in the text format. That's why I am using string. Sanjay is asking a question. How you will know that? You no need to set the book ID. We don't know that basically. Actually, I developed this API. I know that we no need to send the book ID. So that's why I'm not sending that. API team will not give you book ID in the JSON format. API team will not give you book ID in the JSON format. Whatever the variables are displaying here, we will set the data for all those variables. Okay, guys. Now, so this is the logic which is used to send a post request. Let us try. This is available in one method, available in the service class. Let us go to start class. Get the service bean, run dot get bean of that book client dot class. I got this object. I got the bean object, bean dot invoke book ticket. Client logic I have written inside a service class. In the real time also, REST client logics we are going to write in the service layer. Now here I am having a method. This is my start class. In the start class, I am getting the bean object, run.getBean, book client.class. I'm sending a request, bean.invoke book ticket. Run this project, run as boot application, see the console. Record inserted. Are we able to get the response from the API saying that record inserted? Are we able to get the response from the API saying that record inserted? Come on, guys. So are we able to send GET request as well as POST request also by using REST API? Are we able to send GET request and POST request also using REST API? Sending HTTP POST request using REST template. Sending HTTP POST request using REST template. Sending HTTP GET request using REST template. Sending HTTP GET request using REST template. Sending HTTP POST request using REST template. Are you clear? Our REST API method returning the response as record inserted. Just we are getting the response as record inserted. This is the response that API has given. This is the response which API has given. API response we will get from the body, response body. Response entity dot get body will give you the response. Observe this method. How I'm sending post request with the data. How I am sending post request with the data. Okay, guys. Now, currently API data we are holding in the string. If API return the JSON also, we can hold in the string. JSON is also a text data. API may give you JSON data. API may give you XML data. Whatever API is giving, that can be represented as a string now. JSON means it is a text. JSON text. XML text that can be stored in the string dot class. Okay. Now, how to send a request to get all the books. Now see here, till the run method code. What is there in the run method, man? I'm getting IOC object. From IOC, I'm getting this object, service class object. I'm calling this method. What is there to explain you in the start class? Mr. Ganga. What is there here? I am getting the IOC reference. Using IOC, I am getting the book client object. Using that this object, this book client class object I am getting, and I'm calling this method. What logic is there? Understood? Now let us see. There is another method available, get request method available, /books. If you click on try it out, what is happening? If you click on execute /books, what is happening? We are getting some JSON data. There are so many JSON records are available. So just now we inserted one record, that is JSON record is there. Book ID 8, book name Java, book price 345. This is the record just now we inserted and it is stored in the API. When I access /books, I'm getting the data. Can you see what is the response I am getting from the REST API now? Guys, can you see what is the response I'm getting from the REST API now? It is a single JSON or it is a JSON array. It is a single JSON or I'm getting the JSON array. When I send this get request /books, when I send a request to /books and execute it, what is the response we are getting? JSON array. Now, based on this documentation, can you develop REST client for that? I want to access /books method using REST client. You know the URL of the REST API, you know the method URL pattern, you know the request type, and you know the response format also. Can you develop a REST client for this using REST template? Can you open your notepad and can you write the code? Can you open your notepad and can you write the code for this? Can you open the notepad and can you write the code? I want to send a request to /books URL pattern method using get request. Using get request. Can you write the code for this? It is returning a JSON array. Write the code for this. Write the code for this. Are you guys writing? Are you guys writing? Come on, send me the code. Send me the code, which is used to send a get request for /books URL pattern. Now try this. Let me write the logic for that. Public void invoke get books. Invoke get books. Let us take the API URL /books. Do we need to send any data in the request, guys, for this method? Do we need to send any data in the request for this method? No, it is a simple get request with /books. No need to send any data. Let us create the object for REST template. Let us create the object for REST template. rt.get for entity. rt.get for entity. API URL response. It is giving JSON array. First, I will show you with the string.class. That means complete data will come as a JSON. For entity.get body, that body I will print system.out.println of body. Now, this is the method which is used to invoke a get request. This is the method which is used to invoke the get request. Public void invoke get books. This is my API URL. This is a REST template object. Response entity. Entity.get for entity URL. Server is giving some response body. Everything will come as a text only in the internet. You send a request with JSON or you send a empty request. Now server is giving some response. That response may be text response. That may be JSON response. That may be XML response. That response I'm storing into string. String can hold group of characters. That response body I am printing. Now let us see here. I'm going to call another method, bean.invoke getBooks method. Now let us run this program. Run as boot app. Run as boot app. Can you see the response? Am I able to get the JSON array? Am I able to get the JSON array from the server? GetBooks method. Am I able to access the JSON array from the server? I am sending a get request to the server. Server is giving me JSON array data. How I am holding that JSON array data now? As a string only. In the first method, they have given the directly string as a response, the record inserted. In the second method, I'm making a request to get, I'm sending a request to this /books operation. It is binded to get request. When you send a request from the Swagger UI also, you can see we are getting the books data in the JSON format. We are getting the books data in the JSON format. Are you clear? Now I am accessing that method by sending another get request, which is giving me all the books in the JSON array. How I am holding the response data? I am holding the response data in the string.class. Let me go for another method. I don't want to use JSON as it is. I don't want to use JSON as it is. I want to hold the data in the object format. API is giving me JSON array. Can I represent that JSON data in binding class format? Can I store the response data into binding class at the client side? Can I store the JSON data into binding class at the client side? For entity dot get body, which is giving book array, Now here for book colon body system.out.println of book. Let's try this. I'm accessing the same method. This is old, this is new. Here I am holding the response at the client side as a text. Whether it is a JSON or XML, I am representing as a text data. But here I am trying to represent the data as a object. API will give me the object or API will give me the JSON. Guys, when I send a request to the API, API is giving me the object data directly. API will give me the JSON. API will give me the JSON. Why API will give the JSON? Why API will give the JSON? Why API will give the JSON? Interoperability. JSON is the default format. API is giving the JSON data. At the client side, I want to represent the data as an object. API is giving the JSON data. I want to represent that data. At the client side, I want to convert the data into object format. Okay. Now let's access this new method. Get books old. It will give direct string JSON. You will get that JSON we are storing as it is. Now here I am writing another method. Invoke get books new. This method is holding the data in the form of object. Let's try this. Right click, run as boot application. See the console. See the console. Are we able to represent the data in the object format at the client side? API is giving me some data. Are we able to represent the data in the object format? Are we able to represent the data in the object format at the client side? Can I say that conversion is happening at the client side also? Can I say conversion is happening at the client side also? Yes or no? Now observe carefully, guys. Most of the people will get confused here. I'm sending a request to the REST API. What the REST API is giving me as a payload? REST API given the payload as a JSON. Now that JSON is converted to Java object at the client side. Am I doing that conversion? REST template taken care of that conversion. What is the response we are getting from the REST API? What is the response we are getting from the REST API? Come on. What is the REST API giving as a response? What response is giving by the REST API? See here in the browser also you can access it. In the browser also you can access it because it is a get request method. When I send you a get request, what is the response we are getting? JSON. JSON. But how I am able to convert that JSON into object now? How I am able to convert the JSON into object at the client side? Who is doing that JSON to object conversion? This method only it is doing. REST template is doing because I specified it as a array.class. I told that book array.class. Hey, REST template, you send a get request to this URL. This API will give you some JSON data. JSON data should be converted to binding class at the client side. If I give as a string, whatever that JSON data will come, just it will represent in the string format. If I give the response type as a string.class, whatever the JSON we will get, that JSON will be printed as it is. I don't want to print the JSON as it is. Once I receive the response from the API in the JSON, that JSON I want to convert into object, book array.class. Why I am taking book array? This is books now, more than one book can come, array format. That's why I specified book array.class. Whatever the JSON we are getting from this API method, that JSON array is converted to my book array. Book array, every book record is converted into one book object and stored into book array. So client side, that JSON data converted to binding object. As a programmer, are we converting the JSON to Java manually? No, that is taken care by REST template. That means client side conversions will happen. Client side conversions will happen. This REST API method is returning the object. The object data is converted to JSON and JSON data sent as a response to the client. In the REST API, they have implemented the logic to return multiple books. The books data is in the object. At the REST API side, object converted to JSON, JSON came to the client. Client side, the JSON converted to object. So object to JSON, JSON to object, are we doing manually as a programmer? Are we doing manually as a programmer? Those things are taken care by Spring Boot internally. Client side, are we converting the JSON to object? No. API side, API side, come on guys. API side, who is doing that conversion? API side also, Spring Boot only doing that. Spring Boot is doing that. Now, are you able to understand how to send a GET request, how to send a POST request, how to hold the response in the JSON format, and how to hold the response in the object array format? Sending, GET request, and binding response JSON to binding object. Sending GET request and binding response JSON to binding object. API is giving JSON only. That API JSON response I'm binding to Java object by using response type. If I specify, what is the difference you observe? These two methods are making a same request, right? This method is sending a request to the same URL. This method also sending a request to the same URL. What is the difference you observed in these two methods, guys? What is the difference you observed in these two methods? Can you tell me that? What is the difference you have observed in these two methods? Same URL, GET request only we are using. What is the difference between these two methods? /book and /books are. This is also /books. This is also /books only, man. What is the difference you observed in these two methods? Method get for entity parameter is different. In the first method, we gave response type as a string.class. In the second method, I gave the response type as a book array.class. That means here I am telling to store response data as a text data directly. Whenever you make a request to this URL, you are getting some response. The response I am telling to store into string data directly. Okay? In the second scenario, when I send a request to the /book, whatever the response we are getting, that response we are storing into binding object. That is the difference. In the real time, are we going to hold the response in the string format? In the real time, we are going to hold the response in the array format, object format. Which one will be used in the real time, first approach or second approach? Whenever we are developing REST client in the real time project, are we going to use the first approach? Or we are going to use the second approach? Second one only, because whatever the response we are getting from the API, we will represent in the binding object format. So with this, can I say binding classes will be available at the API side and binding classes will be available at the client side also? Binding classes will be available at the API side and binding classes will be available at the client side. Now you see this diagram. We developed this REST API. We deployed the REST API in the Heroku cloud. In that REST API, we have created a binding class. Binding class object is converted to JSON. JSON response coming to the client. Client side JSON is converted to object. Okay. So this is a client application. This is API application. Client application we developed based on the API documentation. API documentation we are having in the Swagger. By using this Swagger documentation, we understood API details, API URL, API method, API request data, API response data. Based on that, I developed my client logic, and from the client application, I'm able to send the request to API application. So this is REST architecture communication. This is, can I call these are distributed applications now? Can I call these are distributed applications now? Can I call these are distributed applications now? Guys, can we call them as distributed applications? Clear for all of you? Perfect. Perfect. So with this, we understood how to develop a client using REST template, GET request and POST request. Anybody having questions on this? Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, Mr. Sai, what is your question?
Hi, sir.
Yes, sir, tell me.
Sir, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Sir, actually, in the book.java, we have declared 3 parameters, right? Book name, book price, book ID.
Yes.
So, for example, I don't want a book price in my client API. So, I can remove book price in the book.java.
If you API will send, but if you don't want to take that value, then you can remove that variable.
In that case, that REST template will map accordingly, or will I get any exceptions?
REST template will map the data to binding object based on what are the variables you have. For example, API is giving you 100 fields in the JSON, but you don't need all the 100 fields. You need only 3 fields from the JSON. So which fields you want, you take only those variables in your binding class.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Sir, suppose in API has not given data to the client in proper format, then internally conversion from JSON to book object array exception may raise.
They should give the proper format. If they don't give the proper format, then how can you access their API? API will give you proper JSON format. Okay. That is their problem now. If they don't give the JSON properly, how can you access that JSON?
Okay.
Yeah, they will give you proper JSON.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Sir, actually, I have built my application and also deploy in the Heroku cloud. So my application is running in my IDE. But sir, when I try to access from the Heroku, then it is not working there. I have just made a simple application.
Okay.
So, but it is not working there. Means some error I'm getting. I have when I'm trying to use, it is showing some message there. So
yes, sir, we'll check that. Sorry, that means you are not able to deploy in the Heroku.
So, sir, I have deployed the application there. Means I have done my push is successfully completed, but still I'm not able to access my application.
That means if the deployment having some issue, then only you will not able to access that now.
So, but my build is successful. I have run all the commands.
I'm telling you that only. If everything is successful, why you will not be able to access? There is some issue might be there now. We need to figure out that issue. If everything is success, then why you can't access it?
So I can show you, sir.
We'll see that. We'll see that, sir. Okay.
Sir, in real time, like to access the endpoints, like we cannot access directly. We'll have the security, no? During the security class, like, are you explaining? Like,
yes, sir. In the security, how we are going to protect our APIs. When the APIs are secured, how we can access the secured APIs, I will cover in the security classes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So currently we are understanding basic development. First, we discussed how to develop APIs, how to test them, how to deploy them, how to develop client, how to access the API, how to deal with the API response, API giving the response in the text format, API giving the response in the JSON format. Mostly APIs will give the data in the JSON format. Instead of using the JSON as it is, client side, we are converting the JSON to object by giving the response type as a array.class. Whatever the book array JSON we are getting, that is automatically converted to book object, right?
Yeah.
Are we doing the conversion manually? No. We are not doing manual conversion.
Again, while sending to EA, like we will be converting to JSON and sending it, right?
Yes, that is already we have done add book method. What we have done here. I'm sending a post request. Am I sending the data in the JSON or I'm sending the data in the form of object?
Object.
I'm passing the object. Do you think that this object will go to the API directly? No. Here, whatever the request object I supplied, this method will convert this book object into book JSON, will send to the REST API. As a programmer, we will deal with objects only. But internally, object will be converted to JSON, JSON will be converted to object. Okay, when I send you a post request, what will happen? Here, I have data in the form of object. This object will be converted to what? JSON format. In the API side, what will happen? JSON they will receive, JSON they will convert into object. Client side, you see, guys, observe carefully. Client side, I'm making a post request. I'm sending a post request to the API. For the post request, what? I'm giving the JSON directly. I'm passing book as a second object as a second parameter. Object as a second parameter. Do you think that this book object will go directly to the REST API? Book object will go to the REST API directly? No. Client side only, object will be converted to JSON. The REST template will do that. Then it will send the JSON payload to the REST API. REST API will receive the JSON. API side JSON will be converted to object. Then they will execute the logic. Then they will send some object. That object response coming to the JSON. Again, at the client side, JSON is converted to object. So client side object to JSON, and server side JSON to object. Server side object to JSON, client side JSON to object. These conversions will happen when we send the request. But as a programmer, are we writing the JSON data directly? Are we writing the data in the object format? Object format. Then who is converting our object to JSON, JSON to object? Spring Boot is doing that conversion internally. Are you guys clear?
Yes, sir.
Good. So with this, we are able to understand how to develop one REST API and how to develop one REST client also. With this, we understood how to develop one REST API and how to develop one REST client also. By using REST client, I'm able to send a post request. I'm able to send a GET request. I'm able to bind the response to object also at the client side. But whatever the REST template we are discussing, is it really recommended to use in the latest projects? This REST template is really recommended to use in the projects, guys? Come on. Is this REST template is really recommended nowadays? No, it is deprecated. That means it is going to deprecate in the future. What is the alternate for the REST template to develop our clients? What is the alternate? Web client. What is the difference between REST template and web client? What is the difference between REST template and web client? Synchronous and asynchronous. Now let us see when to go for synchronous development and when to go for asynchronous development. When to go for synchronous communication and when to go for asynchronous communication. Can you guys tell me when to go for synchronous communication and when to go for asynchronous communication? When to go for synchronous communication and when to go for asynchronous communication? Guys, can you tell me when to go for synchronous communication and when to go for asynchronous communication? When to go for synchronous communication and when to go for asynchronous communication? Now, I will give you a simple scenario. I'm developing one REST API. It is accessing two other REST APIs. Okay, this is Aadhaar and this is income tax API. One is Aadhaar API, another one is a tax API. So call Aadhaar. That means I want to access the person data based on Aadhaar number. I have the citizen Aadhaar number. Based on the Aadhaar number, I want to access person Aadhaar data. Go for first API call. Second one, call tax API. I know citizen Aadhaar data and I want to get the citizen Aadhaar data and I want to get the citizen tax data. Is there any relation between these two APIs? Guys, is there any relation between these two APIs? Do I need to wait for the first API response to send the second API request? Do I need to wait for the first API response to send the second request? For getting the tax data, PAN card is required, not Aadhaar card. I have the Aadhaar number, I have the PAN number. I have the citizen Aadhaar number, I have the citizen PAN number. By using Aadhaar number, I get the citizen data from the Aadhaar API. By using citizen PAN number, I will get the tax data. After sending a first request, do I need to wait for the response of the first request to send the second request? In this scenario, can I go for async communication? Can I go for asynchronous communication? Come on. When to go for asynchronous communication? Without blocking the thread, if you want to continue your code execution, without blocking the thread, if you want to continue your code execution, then you will go for this async communication. Okay. Now let me take another scenario. There is another API called zip API. That means it will take citizen data as an input. It will provide the zip codes. Zip codes API is available. And there is another API available which will provide temperature API, weather API. Zip codes API is available, weather API is also available. Now I have a city name. I will send the city name, I will get the zip code. I will send the zip code, I will get the weather data. Now can I go for asynchronous communication here? Can I go for asynchronous communication here? Call zip codes. Okay, call weather. In this scenario, can I go for asynchronous communication? I have a city name. I will send the city name. Based on the city name, I will get the city zip code. Based on the city zip code, I will get the weather API. Here I need to go for synchronous communication or I need to go for asynchronous communication. Asynchronous. I have to wait for the first API response, then only I can send the second request. Take zip and call weather API. Wait for zip. If I have the zip code, then only I can send the request to weather forecast API. So in this scenario, synchronous communication or asynchronous communication, I should go for only synchronous communication. Now, do you understand what is asynchronous communication and what is synchronous communication? What is asynchronous communication and what is synchronous communication? Asynchronous communication means here it is a block. Here it is a blocking. It is a block. Okay. Asynchronous communication means when you want to access to REST APIs which are totally independent. Aadhaar API, tax API, there is no dependency. I can make a request for Aadhaar. Immediately I can make a request for a tax. I don't want to wait for the Aadhaar response to get the tax data. If you want to make two requests parallelly, parallel calls. If you want to make two requests parallelly, then you can go for which option? Asynchronous communication. Suppose, for example, if you have a requirement, send a request for the first API, wait for the first API response. With the first API response, send the request for the second API. Then you need to go for synchronous communication. Synchronous means blocking thread. You will make a first request, wait for the response, then send the second request. If you have that kind of requirement, then you need to go for synchronous communication. If you have a requirement, make a first request, without waiting, continue for the second request. Then you will go for asynchronous communication. Sync communication and async communication. REST template will support for both communications, or REST template will support only synchronous communication. REST template will support for both, or REST template support only sync. REST template will support only sync communication. If I want to send the async communication request, I want to make a request without waiting, I want to go for another request. Okay, for that what we need to do? For that we need to do web client request. For that we need to do web client request. Come on guys, web client request. So if I go for web client, what will happen? What will happen when you go for web client? Web client will support to synchronous communication as well as asynchronous communication also. Web client will support for synchronous communication as well as asynchronous communication also. Are you clear with my concept? When to go for synchronous, when to go for asynchronous? Is it clear? When to go for synchronous, when to go for asynchronous? Is it clear? Right. Tell me when to go for synchronous, when to go for asynchronous. When to go for synchronous and when to go for asynchronous. Come on, guys. When to go for synchronous and when to go for asynchronous. When you don't want to wait for the response, then go for asynchronous. When you want to wait for the response, then go for synchronous. Then go for synchronous. Are you clear? Are you clear? Perfect. Okay, guys, with this, I'm stopping for today. We will continue on Monday again. So before coming to Monday session, so please make yourself comfortable by developing REST clients with the REST template first, because in the company, some old projects are using still REST template. First, you need to get the clarity. What is the client development and how to develop these clients? First, you need to get the clarity on the client development. Once you got the clarity on this client development, then I will teach you how to develop the client by using web client also. I will show you synchronous and asynchronous with the web client. Synchronous development, asynchronous development by using web client. Okay, guys. So this is very, very important to understand client development. We already completed our API development. Now we need to understand client development. Okay. Client development, I explained with this REST template, both get request method, post request method, and how to bind the data to object at the client side also I have covered. I have uploaded class notes also in the portal. Could you please check it? Is the notes uploaded? Could you please check it? Is the notes uploaded? Okay, good. Next one, guys, another thing is from today, I'm taking some Linux classes for free of cost. So developers also need to have the knowledge on the Linux. So please, if you are interested for the Linux, you can attend them. Today at 9:30 a.m. Linux classes are there. So it will take 1 week to complete the Linux, because tomorrow our work will be mostly on the Linux operating system in the project. So I'm explaining the Linux classes for free of cost. Class will start at 9:30 a.m. Zoom link is available. I shared the Zoom link in our Telegram group also in the 19 SBMS. You can see I gave the Zoom link. So it is from today, not from tomorrow. I made a mistake. So it is from today. Linux classes from today at 9:30 a.m. These are free classes, guys. So please attend those classes so that you can understand how to work with Linux in the real time. Okay, na? Fine, guys. Thank you. We'll meet in the 9:30 class today.
Hi, sir. I have one question.
Yeah, please.
So you are going to teach a Spring profile also for filing?
Sorry?
Spring for filing.
I'm not getting your question, sir.
I'm telling you are going to teach us a Spring profiling, a Spring profile.
Yes, sir. Yes, profiles I will teach.
Because whenever we were giving interview, they have asked so many questions from the Spring profiling only.
Profiling, there is already a video. If you want to understand that today, you can go through that. Spring Boot profiles concept I already explained. In the class also, I will explain. Spring Boot profiles, Ashok IT. I explained about the profiles for 1 hour.
Whenever we have asked about 18 LPA or 19 LPA, they have asked Spring profiling and our this thing's question.
Yeah, you can go through this video, sir. In the live class also, I will cover what is profile in the Spring Boot. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello.
So will you upload this Linux videos on YouTube? Because
I will check that, sir. Today, you please attend the live class, sir.
because sometimes we are unable to miss.
It's 1 week only, sir. Not 1 month. It is just 1 week classes. What is required for the developers? How we will work in the Linux? Where we will use Linux in the real time? Those things we'll understand. It is very important for the developers. Please attend the live classes. This is the Zoom link.
Achha. And sir, will you cover this JUnit part in this?
Yes, sir. In the microservices, once our syllabus is completed, then I will go for tools. Okay, na? So still we need to learn the web client. Then we need to learn some small topics like what is the actuator, how to use YML files, how to use web client. After all these things, we are going to work on microservices. Once the microservice syllabus is also completed, then we will go for tools at the end. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Fine, guys. So tomorrow no class, Sunday. And we will meet again on Monday for our 19 SBMS. The people who are interested, you can go for Linux classes today from 9:30. Thank you, guys.